Scattershot yelled, and I grinned. Some thug ate lead, enough to keep him grounded at least. Fighting our way through a raiderish-filled facility sure had its charm as we moved deeper. Quite a few ponies were here guarding something, but nothing we could deal with, and no fatalities thus far. We pushed into a big chamber, which was unusually warm and bright. Some monitors and other science gear, and in the middle, a small but brightly glowing hole. Whatever this place got its electricity from must be down there. I got my shit up just as a gang of 3 ponies burst through the doors on the other side of the room and took a shot at me before hiding behind some counter. "No, boss!" One of them yelled, and nothing happened, or so I thought. Before I could roast them in many ways, I could feel my magic was severely drained. No complex spells or anything. It was too much. Magic words. It had to be. Whomever conceived those should be forced to ride Celestia's horn the hard way. My shield dissipated, and I barely got enough thinking time to shove me and Scattershot behind a monitor of sorts. I went through my bag and tried to see if anything in here seemed anti-raider enough. If I had to kill here to break through to save Compound, so be it. And if I didn't, they'd kill me and her soon after. Failure was not an option.
They started shooting at our power armor friend.
Rusty's power armor let them bounce off, but not all of them. He started to tumble, and with them hiding down the counter, he wasn't going to get there unless he wanted to gain weight by filling himself with bullets over there. He kept him down with his minigun though. "Come on, come on!" I whispered. I know I had to fail-safe in the mess that was my back, and almost wanted to hold one of the 2 grenades in my bag like trophy as I found them. Those were modified so that the pin wouldn't release while bouncing around in a Wastelander's carrying bag. It would require quite a firm pull on them, and even if they did, they made a loud beeping sound just to be sure. I put one down, holding it with my front hooves, bit the pin with my teeth, and pulled like everything depended on it. And aloud, soon after, I had the pin in my muzzle and it started to beep, but that's nothing you'll hear over a minigun. I counted in my head till 7. Yeah! I squealed loudly as my voice let me and tossed it to the counter behind which they were hiding, with what little magic my horn had. Felt like I was back in magic kindergarten, happy to levitate a pot. It slowly tumbled behind the counter. Blood, insides, and other colorful things a pony can call their own splattered everywhere. I breathed in relief, got my things together, and looked around slowly. Quiet. Seemed like we got them.
"Now that's how you drop a beat to a fight."
Scattershot nuzzled my cheek gently, and I blushed. But before we went where they came from, I had to inspect their energy source. A bubbling glow orange. I didn't believe it at first, but my instincts and experience told me this was lava from a volcano or such. Yes, it sounds weird, but magic users feel in tune a lot differently with the world. I didn't know what or how that was made possible. "Don't get too close to that. Seems like a good way to be a pony-sized match." He gulped and stepped back slowly, probably afraid, but to me it felt very homey, like essence of what so many things in this world, the ground and all, are made from. Moments after admiring their energy source, we broke through the doors they had come through. A big blast door, a camera, and a pony, caught by the sound, raised their voice, probably speaking to us via some hidden speaker.
"You got 2 options. Leave and turn the way you came, or I'm gonna turn this hallway into turret hell."
He threatened, and with no magic at my disposal, we weren't going to stand a chance surviving anything like that. But I did have something in mind. I sighed, hung and low, trying to put up a show like an actor. "I suppose you win." I looked at Scattershot, winking, while looking away from the camera.
"But you can't just leave now, but suppose it's quits here."
Rusty was motionless. and after a few more emotions and gestures for a charade, we turned back. Into the big room we came from, letting the doors close behind us. I whispered a few words, and soon we got into place. Me and Scattershot behind the left door frame, Rusty to the right. Then we waited. He had to come out sooner or later. A quiet but audible hiss from down the hall could be heard. Sounded a lot like it worked. Then again, no pony was around to prove he actually left. He had nothing but trusting his gut instincts. Sounded like something was getting closer. No buzzing or rolling noise like from a robot or a sentry unit. It was smaller, definitely hooved though. It had to be a pony. The door slowly opened as he trotted through. A black-coated earth pony. No mane or tail though. That was all the glimpse that I got before we pretty much pounced on him in unison. Before he could scream or yelp, Scattershot gave him a very hard smack to the back of his head with her shotgun, and he blanked out.
Merry Wasteland Days, scumbag!
She pounded him so hard she almost dropped her shotgun. Worst of all was that we had to drag this sorry ass out of here too. Oh well. However, curiosity and perfectionism wouldn't have let me leave here without checking out the place he came from. Maybe it even had the ward. I did always wanted to research them, see if there are some loopholes. I always was the kind of guy who found out mistakes and flaws and ways to capitalize on them. That's science for you. Beyond the blast door was... Holy gosh. This guy almost had a little palace down here. Red leather chair, steel and crystal embedded table of sorts, even a chandelier. You come here, you! I galloped like an angry bear and pulled the pulsating purple ward from the pedestal in the center and switched it off. This was going to be my treasure in a way.
Let's see what this roach face had to say.
Scattershot was pulling open drawers, and was rewarded. Holding a folder in her muzzle and looking at me. You son of a bloat sprite! He was pulling on some handle in the wall, a safe. My favorite. I loved blasting these things out of the walls, like a good testing target kind of thing. Step back, every pony, I got this. I told our power-armored colt, and he obliged. The magic on my horn swirled in streams, sparkled, and with the lead of my horn forward, released a flurry of fiery projectiles, which detonated on impact. Rubble pieces started to tumble out of the walls, and once the smoke vanished there, the safe was pretty exposed, enough to carefully and slowly wiggle it out of the created craters, like it was the most normal thing. Scattershot and Rusty both stared at me like they just witnessed the birth of the world itself all over again.
Fancy as heck! You must be one hell of a battle mage!
Scattershot looked into my eyes again, and getting very close.
I'd love to see you in competition. Now that's entertainment gold.
She chuckled at me. If some league or such existed for competing mages, that'd be awesome. But back in the days, before the war, it was mostly kept for science and helping you carry stuff. The Wasteland made magic a weapon, but for sport is what I love doing magic the most. That competing spirit, to be the best at something, that was what always had managed to push me. We split the contents when we open it. Half for us and half for you guys, was all Rusty had to say, and we just nodded agreeingly. Also, remind me to never piss you off. Tracking back through the facility we came through wasn't too confusing. Didn't find anything big loot-worthy. Most of the ponies we had attacked here were either somewhat wounded or in shock from a blue colt's lightning attack. Nothing they wouldn't recover from with some of their equipment they had here. We did distribute what we could find, healing-wise, before leaving this dump for good though, to make sure ponies were fine. Leaving the crater this facility was situated in, levitating both the safe and this colt's body, I realized something in my bag rumbled. My book. Something was up. Compound. I flipped through the pages like a dealer through a deck of cards.
All is well here, for now at least. How's your trip, Battle Mage?
I blushed brightly, reading that out aloud in her voice as much as I could. It was the second time I was called that today.
Aw, tell her we ride a sunshine.
We started to move, and I wrote some words. While we were trotting, we have everything to get you free, and more. All is well, and we are right as sunshine. I scribbled onto the paper with quill and ink from my bag. I was levitating like 6 or 7 things by now, like a little caravan, but well, we technically were a caravan right now, with a pony in tow. A few minutes away from the griffin camp, we heard groaning as he came to consciousness. He started to wiggle, but to no avail.
Where you sick ponies taking me?
His teal-colored eyes stared at me.
When I get out, you're gonna regret everything you've ever done.
To your griffin friends, they may have a few things to say, and empty threats really aren't that impressive, you know? I grinned at him, knowing that at this point, no pony at this facility could do much of anything, and that most likely his new boss would be from a camp of griffin. Ponies like you who give no feather about others like that usually aren't left alive, so consider yourself lucky. Good thing that everyone's blood hungry, huh? I told him, and without other words left him be. A lot more petty insults and sneaky remarks ensued, but we didn't care. Moments later, we brought our captive to a griffin guarding the camp. Things seemed like in a ruckus. The Talon almost dropped his gun, seeing our promise on the verge of being fulfilled. And overfilled, too.
The day the scum is down to his knees out here, that's almost picture-worthy and selling it. Better tell our leader about it. Also, one of our 2 ponies we kept insurance well. Let's say one of them went rampant and blew a trailer, killed 4 guards before we could put that pony down. Just a heads up.
He explained before flying off into the skies. I gulped, trying to get what he told us. If they heard Compound in any way, I would go nuts, and probably feel like the world ended all over again. Scattershot sighed, looking at me, and held me close.
No matter what, it'll be alright.
She nodded, and I grinned at her. I had a gut feeling Compound wasn't the one who did so. I mean, with all the time that we spent together, and the trips we've taken, which could have gotten us killed on multiple occasions, I'm sure she trusted us in being back, and feelings for another and everything. I just couldn't believe anything bad would happen to her. Rusty looked down to the ground. Shite. He muttered through the little breathy hole in his helmet, his voice sounding trembly. I leaned to him and gave him a hug. I just couldn't let a pony be sad like this. I'd feel horrible knowing he'd lost a close friend. He looked at me and slowly hugged back. Their leader, Snake, landed next to us and grinned like the smile of Princess Sunshine herself.
You got him in a bucking single day, alive and everything, no injuries. Almost like the best hired gun. Anyhow, let me show you the one pony who didn't decide to go rampant and murder everyone. You there, take him to the special prison.
He pointed to one of the guards, who took our captive away after trying him down with chains. He tried to wiggle and squirm free, but it did him good as it did him earlier. The little trailer that supposedly had our only survivor was locked by a metal door, and another heavier door, barred with a large steel bar, kept them inside. We could see inside, though.
Was an emergency solution, but a solution nonetheless.
Compound looked at me, and Scattershot.
Never doubted you 2, ever.
I half expected Rusty to shred everything in the vicinity, but I was given something completely unexpected.
Puck. I doubted y'all, to be fair. Didn't think either of them were alive, and it was all ruse. Lost everything, thinking we'd be slaves for the rest of our lives. Didn't think it was true. You were right, Nalif.
He looked at me, then to the floor. This was not anger or frustration, but regret, and maybe Eagle Eye was equally not believing it. The Wastelands have a different kind of justice, but misplaced trust was probably the worst way to go out, in vain and all.
Just what am I doing now? My partner down. My plane in ruins. And we're stuck up.
The Griffin started to think about something until his eyes widened and he shouted,
If we fixed your bird, you'd be carrying out deliveries for us. And so on. Could even help us with scouting.
I had an idea of how to one-up that. I hadn't forgotten about my friend Ruby Rubble, who still had his factory to run. And with these Stalins having bits, maybe I could at least run a one-pony marketing campaign. Well, if you're looking for a pony with resources, the Rubble Mine near New Hope is always looking for more buyers. Both Rusty and Snake turned to me. Aren't those slavers? Rusty asked, looking at me, and I smirked at them both. Not anymore. I made sure of that. Compound nuzzled me, and my ears folded back while I was negotiating something.
Sure seem like a capable business pony or hired gun.
Snake chuckled.
Just make sure to not kill any incoming flyers. Otherwise, you may lose working hubs and such.
Scattershot looked judgingly at the Griffin, and I remembered, just now, how only with sheer power did we avoid getting shot in the air.
The hell are we going to do, get more stuff then?
Trading or scavenging. You know, plus, you now have more anyhow, 'cause your protector's bills are toast.
And less cost for us is pretty sweet. But there is one more order of business. The captive.
He motioned with a claw, and I remembered we caught the leader of their place. But he yet hasn't faced any trial of sorts with Griffins here, and it was deserving and overdue. I had to see this. We started going outside. Didn't know where they would do this, but as we left, I got a kiss from the sweet, mint-coated mare, and then she did the same to Scattershot.
My adorable heroes.
She chuckled, and I blushed brightly. I couldn't say anything against it either. It made me feel like the skies were going to clear up any second now, for some overdue sunshine. The skies were murky like almost 200 years ago, and it was afternoonish, had I been made to guess. We followed them into a small wooden trailer with a heavy metal door closing behind us. They tied up the colt here, in the most interesting way I've yet seen in many years of wastelanding. No ropes or chains, but hooves stuck to the floor, with glue of some kind as it seemed.
Alright, you rat. How's it feel to have the tables turned?
You birdheads, the nerve you got doing this shit to your protector. Didn't want me to take any additional griff. Ah!
He got whipped by something heavy and metal-looking, which left quite a mark on the stallion's side.
Shut it, you dimwit. It's all gonna change now. We make the decisions.
Well, if you're suppressing others, you're just asking for them to get you back. I looked right into his eyes.
Goody Two Boots would be doing the same. Shah!
Only your bunch does that. So now, I'm making you a deal, and you best accept. First of all, we don't know you piss. And we send a lot of griffins there. When you go back, so if you try to pull a fast one on us again, we'll seal the deal on you guys for good this time.
He shook his head very slowly.
I'd rather die than submitting to you.
You could bring your crew back and in shape and work hard, but I suppose you're that kind of leader that only cares about himself. I got closer, looking dead into his eyes.
You bucking.
He tried breaking loose. Stress untried.
We had a good thing going, but you had to get your huffing, did ya?
3 very wide lashes from the whip on him. A couple of blood drops, but nothing more.
Well, if you're gonna do that and shit on everyone else and think that's how to live, then you're one messed up creature.
Compound was getting pumped. Her days as a raider must have been something like this.
I can't, alright? Suppose I don't know how.
Then you're going to start small by working here in our camp. And I think I got the perfect job for you. You may like this one, Rusty.
I understood, putting 2 and 2 together.
We'll deal with the details later. Bucker deserves some solitude.
Snake muttered as we left his little bad boy cell. And I'd lie if I said my mind didn't drift to some of the more colorful fantasies of my own, seeing that display. Rusty was just standing there, in shock and everything, and I understood. Outside again, I felt the need to break the silence. Rough road this is we've got. Yep, I hope someday we can return to the good old days. That's what I'm fighting for. I told him, and Scattershot sit down next to me. If you want to stay here for a while, you're welcome, and you're always welcome here. Reliable business, and badass in a way. He smiled before flying off somewhere. The first time I've seen him smile in a long time. Another smaller griffin showed us to a small wagon in the back of their camp.
This is where we let others stay. You lucky. You can stay here free of charge, and we even got real food in the morning. None of that wasteland floor crap.
She explained and then went on her way. I'ma be off, see what's left of our wreck? He muttered to us before asking some griffin for directions. Me and the two fillies opened the squeaky door to our sleeping place, and... Holy Celestia, another surprise. This place was downright cozy. Pillows, mattresses, and blankets, even a little steel furnace in the center.
I thought this was gonna be some dump, but goddesses slapped me. This is downright better than any napping place in New Appaloosa I know of.
Scattershot touched one of the pillows, and Compound inspected the furnace. It was, of course, not a fire furnace. Would be a good way to get yourself killed in a majorly wooden trailer anyway. Instead, this was a magical gem which radiated high amounts of heat in a metal casing, giving off a dim green glow. Definitely hot enough to get your hoof burnt, though. It was warm, like on a summery day. But I had a grin on my face. Even if these griffins were money magnets, if you paid up and kept your deals and honest words, you'd be living the high life with them. I just didn't expect that high.
Could probably use this furnace to brew a potion or two,
Compound started levitating a couple of things from her bag. Bottles, some white stuff, a flask or two, aka things I didn't know about. Myself, I wanted to use the light here to read the documents we had gotten, and more importantly, the safe we had salvaged earlier today. I wanted to get this bad boy open, see what he had. It was about hoof size-ish. I slid it out of my saddlebag, of which I had to take inventory soon anyway.
Ah, Battle Mage gonna blow, huh?
Scattershot leaned over my back and looked into my eye. If only there was some magic competing guild thing, I'd love to join them and teach them all I know.
Yeah, would be a whole new kind of group in the wastelands, wouldn't it? But I do want to see you open that safe.
Compound got closer to me and smiled, curious about this black box as much as I was, or maybe she was curious for my spell. Just to be sure, I wanted to impress these fillies. And it popped right open.